and welcome to the Coronavirus Lockdown live stream, the show that brings welcome levity to the end of the world, lifting the spirits of many of you currently in self-isolation by infecting as many as possible with comfort and distraction as the apocalypse unfolds. How are you all doing? I notice there are 27 currently watching along on Facebook. Many of you will be wanting to thwart the plans of Mark Zuckerberg to take over the world and will therefore be watching on Twitch. So wherever you're watching, however you're watching, even if you're watching on YouTube, from whence I am currently banned in terms of live streams, I hope that you are enjoying yourselves and having an enjoyable weekend. Now, I'm assuming from, so Jay Proctor is saying, is it glitchy? Is Lloyd glitchy or is it me? I'm afraid it seems I probably am glitchy. I don't know what it is about StreamYard, which I'm using for these live streams, but for some reason it just doesn't seem to like me. How is it looking now? It seems to have calmed down a little bit. Let's just keep tabs on things. And if all else fails, I can just have Arthur host the show. I'm sure he'd do a capable job. Arthur is in fact in the green room, along with, let me see here, we have Brandon in the green room. We have Sherry in the green room. I think we might have Sasha as well, although for some reason he's just off camera. We have, I've mentioned Arthur. So yeah, we've got a healthy green room waiting in the wings. But I'd like to open the show with some reading, because reading is relaxing, and especially it's helpful, I guess, when it's a book that will be giving prescient advice. This is Take Back Your Life: Recovering from Cults and Abusive Relationships by Jan Jelilich and Madeline Tobias. I've been reading from chapter 6 on leaving a cult, and I'm just going to pick up where I left off. We're in the section Assessing the Damage, and the subheading is Prior History of Emotional Problems. Prior emotional disorders or distress may increase vulnerability to recruitment and susceptibility to the indoctrination program. There are cults, for example, that focus their recruitment activities in drug rehabilitation programs, Alcoholics Anonymous, and other 12-step programs, as that milieu tends to be a ripe hunting ground for potential members. Some Eastern meditation groups specifically promise relief from emotional problems, while others offer a mystical appeal to those interested in Eastern ways. Similarly, psychotherapy, human potential, political, commercial, and New Age cults tend to prey on the enormous population of individuals seeking to change themselves or society. Individuals with a prior history of emotional problems are more likely to experience emotional problems while in the group. Therefore, they more commonly require psychotherapeutic interventions following cult departure. Personality factors. We are all born with different degrees of intelligence, sensitivity, emotional resilience, and various other personality traits. Many of these traits are not only inherited, but also are strengthened or weakened by educational and social opportunities during early childhood and adolescence. Depending on specific strengths or weaknesses and the type of education and socialization received, each person responds differently to trauma and stress, including that brought on by participation in a cult. For example, someone who has access to resources and is aggressively able to pursue treatment is likely to alleviate the effect of the experience quicker than someone who has been denied these things. In addition, a person's mastery of prior life crises may affect how well she deals with cult-related trauma. I like the way they're using she rather than he all the time. It kind of balances things out. I'm used to reading he in Watchtower publications. During cult involvement, vulnerability factors are related to length of time in the cult, the intensity of the indoctrination process, the extent of harm done, access to medical care, and access to outside support networks. Length of time in the group. The effect a cult experience will have depends in part on how long the person was involved. A related factor is the extent to which the person was exposed to the group's indoctrination and influence processes and systems of control. In some groups, it may take years of involvement before deleterious effects take hold. In others, indoctrination into higher levels of cult activity may be arduous or open only to a select few. In yet others, new members may be swept up into full-time commitment within a matter of weeks. Another factor is the type of responsibility the person had while in the group. For example, someone who was in the leader's inner circle could have been privy to knowledge and decisions that later might exacerbate feelings of shame or guilt. Intensity and severity of indoctrination. Each cult has its own methods for persuading recruits to make a commitment. Although different at first glance, many influence processes are basically similar. Their purpose and outcome are the same. For example, hours spent meditating or speaking in tongues to commune with one's God may initially appear different from, say, hours of group criticism sessions. Nevertheless, these techniques have a common goal: to enhance recruitment, conversion, and retention. That is, to keep members loyal, bound to the group, and subservient to its goal and its leader. I want to talk about retention a bit later in the show. However, the intensity and severity of conversion and control techniques vary in different groups and may even vary in the same group at different times. Plus, members who have peripheral or associate status may have hugely different experiences from those who are full-time inner core members. Specific indoctrination methods will also vary in their effect. For instance, an intense workshop over a week or weekend that includes sleep deprivation, forms of hypnosis, and self-exposure coupled with a high degree of supervision and lack of privacy is likely to produce rapid changes. Conversely, participation in a group using more subtle and long-term methods will likely produce more subtle changes. Some cults also use intrusive methods that affect members on an intimate and/or sexual level. For example, there might be mandated relationships either with leaders or other members, which can be a source of great discomfort and misery. Physical harm and threats of violence. Many groups use the threat of violence as a control mechanism. Sometimes it is more than a threat when violent behaviors are integral to a group's dynamics. Witnessing the death or injury of another may be as traumatic as being harmed personally. Sometimes there is involvement with criminal activity, which tends to compound feelings of guilt and shame and raise fears of legal retribution and blackmail by the cult. Physical and sexual abuses may also increase the risk of emotional trauma and damage. Fear is a most powerful weapon, and living in fear for any length of time has a significant effect on a person's state of mind and well-being. Poor or inadequate medical care. A former member's physical condition and attitude toward healthcare may affect his post-cult adjustment. Many former members find it difficult to take a realistic approach to health issues. For example, one young man left a cult that was intensely homophobic, with the leader continually deriding lesbians and gays. After he left the group, this young man contracted HIV, but denied himself any of the new medical treatments that could have saved his life because of the residual guilt he carried from his cult involvement. Also, medical, dental, and eye care may be unavailable or even forbidden in groups where attention to personal, physical, or mental health is always subordinate to the goals of the group or the leader. The lack of such everyday necessities as eyeglasses or hearing aids can have disastrous consequences. For example, one cult member who was unable to care for his failing eyesight died after a fall into an elevator shaft. In some groups, disease or disability is interpreted as a lack of faith, the work of demons, shirking, or something to be overcome through prayer. In others, disease is simply ignored. In yet other groups, severe illness, either medical or psychological, is cause for ejection from the group, with ill members being deposited in the emergency rooms of local hospitals or shipped home. To date, there are no studies on the morbidity or mortality rates in cult groups or in the former member population. Many anecdotal reports in the media, as well as in medical and psychological journals, suggest that involvement in cultic groups and relationships has produced a number of preventable casualties, including suicide. For example, former members of one well-known group count at least 31 suicides in the past 13 years, including at least 2 adult children of top leaders. That's the end of that particular section, and I was kind of hoping they would mention blood transfusions, but never mind. Fascinating, isn't it? Fascinating to see so many similarities. Obviously, not all of those apply to Jehovah's Witnesses, but it's alarming to think that the same kind of cult DNA can produce such extremes. Let me just bring in my very patient green room. And we have here Arthur, we have Brandon, and we have Sherry, and we have Sasha. And they're all looking splendid.
Yes, especially at 5 a.m. in the morning in Australia. It's lovely.
Is it
Good morning,
5?
guys.
Is it 5 at the moment?
Yeah.
Well, it's 5:15, so I suppose that's a bit better.
I just like Arthur to be wrong occasionally. You know, maybe it's the sadistic side of me. I don't know. I like him to be wrong now and then. How are you doing, Brandon?
Doing all right.
Still alive.
They started.
Yeah.
Still alive. It's been
So are you
beautiful weather out here on the West Coast?
Dare I ask what the work situation is at the moment? Is it a busy day for you, or a day off, or?
The morning was. No, I don't really have days off. No, morning was. Had physical therapy for my shoulder this morning, and now I'm doing my lunch with you guys, and I'll scarf something down in a little bit and go right back to work.
You must excuse me, but so you're going to be going back to work at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so that's interesting because
off the ladder.
I've noticed someone in the comments who would actually be nice to have on the panel. So I'm going to try and get him a link so that he can join.
I will say again.
I'm just trying to get a link. So my thought is, if you can't be with us the whole time, Brandon.
Oh yeah.
We can have a bit of a crossover, or indeed I'll just say who it is, Cliff. I've just noticed Cliff in the comments, and it'd be nice to get him on if he wants to join. That is, and then crumbs. Let me just see here.
I will happily drop off and give Cliff my entire segment.
You don't have to drop off. You don't have to drop off. We also have Mark. So hello, Mark.
Hey.
And Sasha.
Good to see you, man.
Or as he says, Sasha?
I'll go by anything.
Sasha, yeah.
Sasha. G'day, mate. How are you?
How you going, mate?
Yeah, going all right. You got your barbie running there, ain't you? You got some shrimp?
Hang on, that's turning into Scottish.
Or we can have a very nice southern accent, imitating brother Steven Lett this time. Why not?
A Romanian doing an American Southern accent. I love it.
It doesn't get any better, viewers. It doesn't.
Quality entertainment already, you could say, in today's lockdown live stream, pushing new boundaries, it must be said, of entertainment. Experimenting with different things. Romanians trying Australian accents. Why not? No one else is doing it. We're going to do it.
Brandon has an authentic Southern accent. That's what I like.
He does. We shouldn't really make fun of Southerners with
Alabama, right? I think it's Alabama.
Georgia, Alabama, yeah.
It's not that strong, though. I've heard much stronger accents than Brandon.
Yeah, howdy, folks.
It depends on who I'm talking to.
It depends on who you're talking to. Interesting. A similar thing with me, actually. If you put me in a room with a proper Mancunian, all of a sudden my Manchester accent starts to come out a little bit more, So.
Or when you get cranky. I noticed one of your videos when you were really cranky about it, something on one of the broadcasting episodes. There was this little glitch of reaction that I thought really brought out your origin even better. It was good. It was very natural.
What, you mean my Mancunian side?
Something came out. There was a little expression of something where you were frustrated with
something came out. You mean like a fart or something?
No. Well, I mean, look, I'm not in the bunker, so I don't know about that.
It's been known to happen, but fortunately,
there's no meter on the wall.
I have the gift of editing, so no one will ever know.
I did see a brown spot behind you on that wall. I was wondering what that was.
Taking the lockdown live stream into some very unsavory places. To new lows. So Mark and I were just actually doing a Watchtower in Focus episode, which you can all look forward to tomorrow, hopefully once it's all edited. Do you want to give people a teaser, Mark, as to what they can look forward to apart from your partial nudity?
I guess you could call this partial nudity. There's not much underneath of this, I can assure you.
Hot under the collar, I'm sure many of the ladies watching.
Yeah, didn't you? Never mind. So we had a nice time, man. Episode 35. Wow,
35. Yeah.
I don't rewatch the programs. I think most of us don't have time. I mean, my God, you have to edit this, Lloyd, and I don't know how you do it. And we've done 35, and this is not even remotely counting the hundreds and hundreds of videos you've done on your channel, but just the Watchtower in Focus alone. So we started that in 2017 with the Fessler trial. And I have to laugh because I went back to see what that looked like. And I remember, man, we were all into the gadgetry back then. I had a GoPro camera running, and I was sending you this huge file, and I had my regular camera, the GoPro camera, and you had to edit through all of that. And, now things I think are a little bit simpler.
Yeah, we went through a process of me trying to do it, basically experimenting on the best way to do the show. And we kind of settled on two ways. One, to do the live stream, which requires no editing, and one to do the traditional kind of pre-recorded version. And even there, I've kind of honed my way of doing it so that it's as simple as possible, and you don't need to record at your end. Yeah.
And then we had, we should do a recap of sometime of every Watchtower in Focus episode, because, of course, sadly, a lot of them are about child abuse. But, we've had some funny moments, like the time we had Erwin Zalkin on and did a really great full interview with Erwin. And we get to the end, and, of course, the "Oh Crumbs" comes out. And
that's where the Manchester accent would come out.
Yeah, someone had forgotten to press the record button.
I still have nightmares about that episode. And we literally had to, basically, I had to grovel to Erwin Tolkien. And, I didn't have to. I needed, I genuinely, it wasn't like a feigned thing. I was genuinely like, please, please, please forgive me. Please, would you consider coming back on the show and us basically doing the same thing all over again? But what was interesting was he just immediately said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And And what happened was, because we'd already had the conversation, it was much tighter, and we weren't kind of beating around the bush. We were just going straight to the point. So
that was a surreal moment, Lloyd, because you start our shows a lot of times are pretty extemporaneous, and we have a very rough outline, and we just free flow. But you started asking some of the same questions, and I could still hear myself. It's like an echo in your mind. You're reciting the same thing. It was like we did a rehearsal, and then, like you said, it got tightened up, and I think we did it in probably 20 or 30 minutes shorter compressed period of time with the second interview with Erwin. But it was just funny hearing those same questions come out and then reciting the answers and then thinking about maybe what you would have said better the first time. And that's what I tried to do. And I think the rest of us did too. And it worked out very well.
It did work out well. But anyway, so tomorrow's episode 35, will be titled The Coronavirus Hangover. And it will be dealing with the organization's response to the coronavirus. And I did mention when I was recording from Take Back Your Life, I found it interesting when it talked about retention, because I think that's what we're seeing a lot of in particularly the very latest report video by David Splain. It's all really about retention, isn't it? We're sending out a legion of elders to conduct shepherding visits, either by telephone or Skype or Zoom, basically to remind you of what religion you're in so that you don't fall out of the faith.
I think it must be a shock to their system to have to go through this and to suddenly have to deal with tens of thousands of congregations that can't have meetings anymore. And, it went through a development. I think the first few weeks we had the shock of I started seeing announcements through private channels about how the organization was going to be using KHConf. In fact, for those that don't know, a lot of the meetings are recorded. So the people that are sick at home, not recorded, but a person sick at home can listen live using one of a number of different services that are approved by the Watchtower organizations. And one of them is called Kingdom Hall Conference, which is KHConf. They have an app. You can turn the app on. You have to use a passcode for your congregation. You can listen to the meetings, and they predominantly use that for elderly or people who are sick, and they can listen in. So you might have 5, 10, 15 or more people listening at the same time. Then, so they made an announcement and said, hey, Watchtower organization is now going to take over the management of KHConf, which is a company run by a JW down in Texas, a very astute guy that set this whole thing up. And it's like, I think Brandon knows. He's shaking his head, knows a lot about it.
Yeah.
So they're,
been going for a while.
Yeah, it's been going for a while. There are some other services out there. That's kind of the main one in the US and Canada and a few other regions. But then as things got to the point where, hey, wait a minute, because we first had meetings that were like, well, they had reduced numbers of people. In fact, I started noticing even with the local meetings here in Maryland that people were voluntarily staying home and listening on the KHConf, which was starting to get overloaded. And then the organization jumped into panic mode like 3 or 4 weeks ago and said, well, we've got to take over this audio link so that we can manage it. And there's a lot of finances involved in that too, but that's another story. Then when it became full lockdown, they had to go to Zoom. And you had Stephen Lett on the, as a governing body member making this proclamation, and he even drops the name of Zoom in his comments. And then so they basically started shrinking. They do have a way of connecting Zoom audio out to KHConf, and there's a document for the elders for how to do that. But I think for the most part, and Brandon, you can correct me if I'm wrong, for the most part now what they're doing is they're just having congregations send a private link to their own members for each meeting. And now everybody's locked down. So it's like a whole new world. Who knows how long it's going to go on.
Yeah,
Indeed.
It looks like the link's being generated like at a JW.org company level now. So the JW Watchtower has an account and they're sharing it out to the congregations, what it seems like. No, funny thing you said there about the attendance shrinking down. It sounds vaguely familiar from back in the day when they started doing Watchtower studies in the Bethel rooms. the attendance actually in the auditorium just shrunk down. Everybody's sick and not feeling well, and you know, they started.
Can you tell everybody? Yeah, can you
Go
tell
ahead.
everybody what year that was? Because you were in Patterson for quite a while.
So that was towards the end. So that would have been, I want to say 2015, 2016, 2017, somewhere in there. But it definitely, the Bethel family, the Watchtower study on Monday nights, it was packed out. And then they introduced, or they put it on the Bethel channel. I think it was like channel 17 or 18 internally.
Mm-hmm.
And you could watch the Watchtower study from your room. And all of a sudden, it was just, you know, you pan back into the audience and just empty seats. The first two seats were obviously filled because you got your commenters up front, but the ones in the back were very sparsely populated. And then they had to do the, beat the bushes again, and you need to come down and be together. But it's interesting that
with that sort
there.
of with that situation, is there a way that they can have an accounting as to who is present and who's not? Like I know with the current iteration with Zoom, it's pretty obvious to see who's on the screen and who's not. So elders have a way of monitoring or checking up on who's in attendance. How's that situation playing out with congregations?
As far as what, the attendance part, or
as far as elders perhaps expecting an accounting from who's in attendance or not, is there a way that they perhaps might be monitoring that?
Yes,
I've heard that they've been asking folks to text message the count at your local location to a person's phone and accumulate it that way, which is very back of the napkin. Right. But
and they do have a list on the side of the screen so they can see who's attending. But of course, whatever name you type in is what appears on the screen, and I won't say which one, but I did get a link to the memorial. Sasha knows this, right? I did listen into part of a memorial in there, and you can not show your face, or you can put up a picture in place of your face, and so you could use a fake name. So I think the organization knows that, and they're going to be closely monitoring that. And they do have, I think, some guys are basically functioning as an attendant to monitor who's coming in, and they don't just let you in. It's sort of like what Lloyd just did here. We enter the broadcast studio, but it's up to the administrator, Lloyd, to click us in. So they can kind of see who's waiting, and they can filter out if they think somebody is in apostate or whatever.
But what I can confirm that. I can confirm that because I've read the letters pertaining to Zoom administration for the organizational accounts.
But what I have on this program and on Zoom is if I notice any of my panelists starting to fall asleep, I actually have a button that will send an electric shock and wake them up. My question is, obviously that never has to happen because you guys are always alert to everything that's happening. But do elders have that power?
Well, we are now.
Is the question.
Yeah. Well, I did get booted out. I did get booted out of the memorial.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I caused that. So
dear, you caused the ruckus.
You did cause that, Mark. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, please let us know what strategies did you use to.
Well, first of all, no, I'm not a meeting crasher, so I didn't go in and start, making a ruckus because we're not in favor of people crashing, or especially during the memorial, which is their sacred occasion, But I may or not had, my picture icon may or may not have said JW Fax on it, so I'm not sure. But I think they probably didn't notice that right away because I listened for a good while, and of course I wasn't there to disturb anything. And really, everybody's muted anyway, especially during like the memorial. You're going to be muted, and only the speaker is going to be heard. And then you can see who's there. But when you have, this one had 400 or 500 people attending, and in order to see everybody who's there, you kind of have to scroll through. You might see 20 or 25 people on the screen, but then you have to click next to see the next 20. So you're not seeing all 400 people or 200 people at once. You've got to scroll through. And so I think they didn't catch on to it, right away. But
I do have a serious question though, because we were talking before about retention and about elders kind of almost being drafted in to kind of make sure witnesses aren't drifting from the faith while they're in lockdown situations. I don't know what you think, Sherry, because you hear kind of anecdotal reports, don't you, of witnesses who've drifted away from the organization, and perhaps they like to think they're awake, then going back because they're scared as hell about the whole coronavirus thing. I mean, I don't know personally how much truth we can attach to those reports, but what do you think is going to prevail? Do you think that more witnesses are going to wake up due to being in a lockdown situation, or do you think this is going to be offset by people who were on the fence running back?
I don't know. It's a very interesting question. We have heard of a few who have gone back out of fear, which is it's sad to hear those reports. But I also think that the break in routine, the break in habit, is something that Watchtower will no doubt be quite concerned about. Not only Watchtower, but any religious organization, because as soon as your routine is disrupted by 4 to 5 weeks, the new routine is habit forming. So I think that's of enormous concern to Watchtower, because people's routine is being disrupted entirely, not just meeting attendance, but even their field service routine and pattern is being disrupted. How they're going to maintain that through this, and then at the other end, be able to drum it up again. What will Watchtower look like? What will your local congregations look like? I can't hazard a guess, but it's going to be very interesting.
It will be interesting to see how the organization recovers post-coronavirus.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And control is definitely a major factor that all religions are recognizing is going to change. Even some of the American televangelists, the well-known names, won't bother naming them now, but they've put out
Kenneth Copeland.
Yeah.
We've all seen that one.
Exactly. You know, they recognise that they need to get that virus.
COVID-19 in the name of Jesus.
He straight up looks like Palpatine.
Yes.
He looks scary, doesn't he? It's like something from a House of Horrors, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he recognised very much that this. Hey, is that Charlie or Boots that we can hear?
That was.
Mark is not observing the mute-unmute rule, so I've muted him.
But that second Ken Copeland video was absolutely like a satanistic ritual or something like that. It wasn't even charismatic evangelic church.
Have you seen the rap one though? Have you seen the rap remix of him? That one's funny.
I've seen. Well, there's the rap one. Yeah. There's a rap one, and there's also a death metal one, and both are hilarious. Yeah,
I've seen them both.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, Arthur. Brilliant.
Yes,
we have had a question for you.
Arthur, is it just me, or is Team Arthur growing in numbers and strength?
It's a good question, and one that I think lots of people would like an answer to.
Well, just ask the other Team Arthur. Just ask the other Team Arthur members.
I can answer Team Arthur. Arthur is one of the most brilliant members to ever grace the team, and does an incredible amount of work behind the scenes. In many different areas, including helping proof and lay out books like the ones that Lloyd's written. And also you do translating. And I think actually you translated the JW Survey article that just came out. I noticed. We've got that translated into at least 3 different languages. I think a Romanian, Spanish, Portuguese. So thank you very much for doing that.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
You're a very technical man.
What better way to fully appreciate Arthur's talents, though?
Here it comes.
Than to allow him to unleash his creativity in the only way that he can really unleash his creativity, and that's through the gift of song as we sing along with Arthur.
Dear viewers, many of you have sent me negative remarks.
Flawless.
Many of you have sent me negative remarks about the theme of my covers being too triggering or using JW lingo. So for tonight, I prepared something different. I prepared something that's more like, hey, don't spoil it. Lloyd, don't spoil it. I prepared something that's more in the theme of escaping cults and gaining our freedom. And yes, I was suggested to perform the song by our very own Sherry D'Souza. And here goes. First I was afraid, I was petrified. Kept thinking I could never live without you by my side. But then I spent so many nights, learned the truth about it all. And I never stepped a foot in another kingdom hall. And now they're here, the overseers, try to make me change my mind and to monger my old fears. I told them I don't have the time, got some other stuff to do. Gotta watch the lockdown live stream with Lloyd Evans and his crew. Go on now, go. Walk out the door, just turn around now, cause you're not welcome anymore. Weren't you the ones who threatened with Jehovah's wrath? Did I crumble? I don't want this cultish path, oh no, not I will survive. Oh, as long as I have all my freedom, I know I stay alive. I got all my love to live, I've got unconditional love to give, and I'll survive. I will survive. Hey, hey.
You need to play the air keyboard, Arthur.
It took all the strength I had to recover more. There was a genuine kind of joy I never felt before. And I spent oh so many nights reading JW Fact. Made so much more sense than the Gospels or the Acts in me. Somebody knew. And I'm not a change that filled person fond of preaching you. And so I want to let you know it's so awesome to be free. And now I'm sharing all my freedom to all who will listen to me. Go on now, go. Walk out the door, just turn around now, cause you're not welcome anymore. Weren't you the ones who threatened with Jehovah's wrath? Do you think I crumble? I don't want this cultish path, oh no, not I will survive. Oh, as long as I love all my freedom, I know I stay alive. I got all my life to live, unconditional love to give, and I'll survive. I will survive. Oh, go on now, go. Walk out the door, just turn around now, cause you're not welcome anymore. Weren't you the ones who threatened with Jehovah's wrath and no longer crumble? I don't want all this cloutish path, I know that I will survive. Oh, as long as I have all my freedom, I know I stay alive. I got all my life to live, unconditional love to give, and I'll survive. I will survive. I will survive.
I don't
Brilliant.
really know what to say. That has
Well
to be,
done,
for
Arthur.
me, the best performance of
It's a group
Sing Along
performance.
with Arthur that we've had yet. That was
Well done,
flawless.
Arthur.
That was gold.
Thank you.
That was excellent.
Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant.
Well done.
I'm frankly speechless. I didn't intend for that sort of. No, I did intend for that outcome. Sorry. It's just, you know,
perfectly planned.
it's reaffirming. It's reaffirming of one's faith in Arthur's talents.
Absolutely. And yes, people, you will survive when we're waking up and we get out of the
Yes.
cult. We will survive. Well done, Arthur.
Thank you.
Well
Thank you.
done.
Thank you, everyone.
Well said. I'm just trying to jump to the comments. Frank Rizzo saying that was great. Oh, some strong scores coming through here. Strong scores. Sorry.
Do you think if and when Eurovision is back and running again, Arthur, will you be our nominee to perform?
9.7.
Gabrielle
They
giving
already
Arthur
have a. Wow! Thanks,
9.7.
Gabriel.
It's like the
Abigail
highest so far, like an
Parker.
8.6, right?
Yeah, exactly. This is a record. Abigail Parker is willing to give Arthur solid gold in exchange for that performance. I would cash in on that, Arthur, if I were you. Jenny Barrett giving Arthur a solid 10.
Thank you.
Becky Alvarez says that was wonderful. And Gabrielle says, my angel is singing.
I'm blushing.
We are not going to be able to scrape Arthur's head off the ceiling at this rate. He is going to be buoyed by this for months.
And rightly so.
Matthew Tino says, I'm sure my neighbours on the other side of my wall are wondering why I'm cackling like an idiot. I can think of more incriminating noises they might have heard in response to that performance than cackling. But yeah, definitely. Nicole says he needs a disco ball.
Yes.
And
next
John Boy
episode.
Diego says, to be fair, this is actually quite good. So yeah, widespread praise there, Arthur. And to be honest, I wouldn't envy anyone who has a follow-up segment to this, which is why I have to extend greatest sympathy to Mr. Sasha D'Souza.
Here we go again. All
Was
right.
that the poem? That was really not an impressive
Nice.
poem.
That was riveting.
That was
Well done.
literally just you saying, here we go again, here we go again.
You know, brevity is the theme of our lockdown
see.
life. No. Okay, here we go. I'm going to get serious now. Shut up. How can we handle this time of upheaval? Could it be deduced that it's a time for retrieval of our inequalities, both loving and good? A chance to reach out and help the worldwide neighbourhood. A time to display qualities, kindness and care. A time to help others as they try and bear the difficult situations they may be enduring. So let's be patient, loving and reassuring. Yes, time will improve. It's easy to infer. The spirit of humanity will clearly concur that will come out of this better and stronger. On these positive notes, I'll leave you to ponder.
Very
Bravo.
nice. Very nice. Actually. Well done.
Thank
Now, as although I consider myself to be something of a connoisseur of poetry, there is someone who is even more renowned than me, arguably, some would say, for his ability to craft lyrics. And he's waiting in the green room. Now, I've never before attempted to have 7 on the lockdown live stream, so this might not work, but let me try it.
6 is maximum.
Oh,
Yeah, it's telling me that I'm limited to 6. So all I can
I can go.
I'm happy to drop off.
No. Sasha, just
I have to go in 5 minutes anyways.
Yeah, I'll drop off.
Brandon's got work in 5 minutes,
Yep.
so that might be. But can we just, in that case, take this opportunity to thank Brandon so much for joining us?
Thanks.
Give lots of love and hugs to Yvette as well.
Will
Yes.
do. I'll be happy to make a place for another 5th generation.
Indeed.
There you go.
Take care, mate.
Thanks, Brandon.
See you soon.
See you, Brandon.
And with, let's see, let's just wait. Bear with me a moment. Okay, and now maybe we can add 5th. Here he is, the man himself.
There he is.
Hey, Cliff.
Cliff, we're not hearing your microphone, mate. Oh,
Five.
right. Okay. Now
Okay.
you're
All right.
unmuted.
Am I on now?
There he is.
Now,
Yeah.
5th. I know.
Okay.
I know that there may be a little bit of jealousy over Sasha's ability to craft very clever lyrics that you've just been hearing. So if you could try to stifle that jealousy and give as an objective as possible an appraisal of the poetry you've just heard, that would be very helpful.
You know what? Before I get to stifling that jealousy, I got to shout out Arthur. That was amazing. That "I Will Survive" cover.
Thanks,
I mean,
bro.
my goodness, I had no idea we had so much talent amongst us. So that was incredible. Really, enjoyed
Maybe
that.
Arthur could be a support act at one of your future
Yes,
gigs.
exactly.
Floating that idea.
Yes, if I could ever get a future gig at some point when this COVID-19 calms down, definitely.
You can do
Definitely.
it online.
Yeah,
I'm
Collaboration.
sort of unofficially Arthur's agent,
I
so
can see.
all conversations through me, please. That'd be appreciated.
Oh man, and yeah, Sasha, I'm surprised as me and Sasha keep in touch fairly regularly. I'm surprised I never even knew that he had that ability with poetry. That was really impressive. So
Some still
Yeah.
don't know that he has that ability. But they should. They should. Know.
that was good.
Yeah.
I thought that
Ability
was really good,
is an open word. Ability.
that was impressive. I really liked it. I really liked it a lot.
No,
So
thank
you've
you.
been
Man.
holding out
That
on
means
me.
a lot.
So, how the heck are you doing, Cliff, in your corner of California?
Man, well, first of all, let me say it's nice to be with you guys. This is my first time even tuning in because I've just been so busy, mainly just kind of focused on this music venture that I'm doing at the moment. But yeah, I mean things are going well. I'm in the Bay Area, Northern California, and we were one of the first ones in the United States to have the shelter in place. So we've been doing that since I don't remember exactly when, but like mid-March or something like that. Right around there. So, I work as a Spanish interpreter in the courts, and I haven't done that at all. I've done one like deposition through Zoom, but that's it. So I just been in here working on music, preparing for that, and yeah, that's about it. Not too much.
It must be said that it's 2 tracks you've put out so far, isn't it?
Right.
Absolutely mind-blowing. I can remember hearing a little bit of one when we were doing work for Tat in the back of that car when we were driving back through the Californian desert.
Right.
And in me, because when you've got a mate and they say, "Oh, I can write songs," and you're like, "Oh, right, okay, okay." So I always kind of approach that situation with a little bit of skepticism, healthy skepticism. But I was I thought, okay, this guy can rap, and that was just like a rough cut. So to see the kind of final polished product with those stunning visuals, I'm really thrilled for you, mate, and I'm so pleased to see the response it's getting.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been amazing, and I have to shout out even some of you right here. I know Mark. I let you hear some of Cost of Doing Business. I think when we were in Australia, I know Sasha has heard some stuff, and I assume that if Sasha heard it, Sherry heard it. I don't remember if I showed you specifically Sherry in Australia, but yeah. So it's been nice. A lot of the reason why I decided to really go forward the way that I did in the music video, like these things were things I hadn't even really thought about, especially, hey, Kim, how's it going? These are things I hadn't even thought about probably when you guys first heard the songs, doing music videos and all of that. But it was because of encouragement and, from people like you guys saying like, wow, this is good, blah, blah. Like I've kind of been working, doing music a little bit like for a number of years, but obviously because of being a witness and everything, I wasn't, really able to pursue it. And I had to kind of stay in a certain box as far as content and things of that nature. So, kind of just having those people around me and everybody online that's been tapping in, sending me messages and, hey, this is great and all of that. That's the kind of stuff that gets me out of my own way, because normally I would maybe be a little bit like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if people are going to be able to understand. Even cost of doing business, being explicitly about the experience of shunning. I've been really surprised. I've even had a local rapper here in the Bay Area who has nothing to do with that experience whatsoever, just kind of say, hey, man, I respect what you're doing. I just, I can relate to trying to just live in your own truth and things of that nature. So that's really something that's been incredible for me and something that I really just appreciated. I never thought I was going to be able to do this. So I'm just kind of riding the wave and, seeing where it takes me.
When we were, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, you've really, you're a humble guy, and I think you've unlocked something since you were able to leave the organization, that you really unlocked something in your brain that's really impressive. And I know I had a chance to spend a lot of time with you, like you mentioned, when we were in Sydney.
Yeah.
And, I learned a lot of things, not just about your music and your abilities, but also something I think that people don't know about you, Cliff, is that, you're a Spanish language interpreter. And I remember you telling me that you did not grow up speaking Spanish, right? You learned Spanish as a second language, and now it's your job interpreting. I mean, I don't know many people, if any, that did not grow up speaking that language and now are a professional court. I mean, that's a whole nother level to be a court interpreter.
Right.
And, maybe tell us about, I know you're a humble guy, but I think that's pretty impressive. And maybe since you've left the organization, you kind of had a real awakening to your abilities.
Wow. That's a very complimentary way to put it, Mark. I appreciate that. It's one of those things that, I did start learning Spanish when I was like 13. And I was just kind of taking it in school like everybody else. And I had a teacher that kind of said, hey, it looks like you're getting it a little bit faster than normal kind of thing. So I had some like encouragement in that way. And then when I was 15, that's when I started going to the Spanish meetings. So, the Jehovah's Witness meetings, obviously. So, doing that and pursuing it for that purpose, that was the main reason that I was learning Spanish and Portuguese later. But it turns out that, I didn't even know that interpreting was a profession at that age. And I found out, later. And I guess the difference, I was doing that, I was interpreting as a witness too, but I guess the difference is, now I don't take Tuesdays off to go and stand at the, the train station to get my pioneer hours, right? That's the major difference. And I could kind of hone in on that craft a little bit, more. It's like, that's one thing that I've noticed, just the amount of time you put into being a witness and being a speaker and all of this other kind of stuff. When you're able to replace that with things that are actually important to you and actually are worthwhile, whatever abilities or talents that you have, they just grow exponentially. And I think that's what I've been able to notice. And I'm sure, a lot of other people have been able to notice that with their skills as well, their talents.
Amanda Rich here saying, great music, Cliff. My mom told me she really appreciated it too, even though it's not her type of music, she still enjoyed it. So reaching across generational boundaries here as well. One, I'm just interested in, I'm interested in lots of stuff about this, but I don't want you to feel like you have to divulge too much, and by all means keep things under wraps, but have the two music videos that you've put out so far kind of opened any doors for you? And to what extent can we look forward to more material in the future?
I mean, they've got me in contact. Even, for example, the person who shoots my music videos, he's a guy who shoots music videos for, if we have rap fans on, he shoots for, I don't even know if anyway, Kendrick Lamar and Kendrick Lamar's team and things like that, some kind of well-known rappers and stuff like that. So You know, through that connection, I've met some other artists, you know, that I used to listen to a lot. And yeah, like I said, it's opened up doors. People have kind of reached out to me. Different ones have reached out and just, you know, appreciated the art and everything that I'm doing. You know, definitely had plans on performing. I still tentatively have plans on performing, but obviously the COVID-19 thing is kind of throwing it off. I am preparing my album right now, or actually it's done, but I'm just in the process of, you know, trying to just release it in a way that that'll be, you know, most beneficial, where, you know, most people or as many people as possible will be able to hear it and things of that nature. And it's kind of funny.
COVID-19 complicated things there.
As far as performing, definitely, like any performing opportunities I had, you know, were just kind of shot. You know, I still am. I'm planning on kind of doing virtual listening parties or something like that. You know, when it's time to actually release the album, which honestly, I guess I'm announcing it here kind of first, which should be within the next. I'll say within the next
first on the coronavirus lockdown live stream, folks. Yeah. You heard it here first.
Within the next couple of weeks, right? Next couple of weeks is the plan. So, but it's funny. I wanted to say something about what you said. You know, the crowd or the audience that consumes the music and the music videos. You're right. It expands so many different, you know, generations, and even with the comment that I get a lot, which I kind of chuckle at, is I hate rap music. People saying I hate rap music, but I really love this song, you know, which is funny. Like I think that's kind of the cool thing about music, especially when it has certain, you know, messages, is that even though people may say like, well, this is not normally the style that I would listen to, but because I'm able to relate, or because I respect what you're saying, you know, I can appreciate it. So, you know, my album, just kind of a little bit of a preview. It's not all cost of doing business, so to speak, right? I'm not just like telling the story over and over, being shunned and things like that. Some of it is just exploring myself as an artist, you know, just my own creativity, right? So people who are just general rap fans, I think, will appreciate it, you know, as well. I'm not putting any limits on what I'm saying or how I'm expressing myself or anything, you know, that nature. I'm trying for the first time in my life to just be authentic and, you know, unfiltered, which feels really good. So, but yeah, you know, hopefully people have a chance to listen to it. You know, I think you guys will like it. And like I said, my biggest message is just telling people to just be true to themselves. You know, just be your authentic self. Whether you have an experience similar to ours or something different, you know, whatever it is that you want to do, just do it. There's nothing stopping you at this point.
Well said.
Well said.
And
yeah.
Can I just say, for all those who are listening to your work and those, please go out and actually buy the tracks. I know you're too humble, Cliff, but to say this, there's so many ways people can listen to things for free, or they can watch it on YouTube. But there's no better way to support an artist that we love than to go out and purchase the track. And this goes for everybody, Cliff and all artists. Please go out and purchase it via your music streaming service, or buy the albums directly. It means a lot to help keep live music and to keep performance artists going, to actually make sure that we support it in the right way. So go out and download the tracks, pay for it, do it the right way.
Can you tell us, Cliff? It's on iTunes, and where else can you find your music?
Yeah, so it's on all major streaming platforms, you know, Amazon. But but the primary ones, I guess, are Apple Music / iTunes, I guess, and Spotify. But yeah, you can get it on anything, Tidal. You know, some of the lesser known platforms. It's all over.
So that means if you have a Spotify account already, you're paying for that, then you can listen to your tracks.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. As far as I understand, I think I normally use Apple Music. So I believe somebody that's more acquainted with Spotify. See, that I should know the answer to that. So I appreciate you asking.
Well, I'm going to look it up while we're talking.
No, you shouldn't know the answer to that, Cliff. Your people should know the answer to that. So the correct answer is I will ask my people. I can't believe I have to school you in this.
I know, man. All I know how to do is rap. I don't know how to do anything. I don't know how to do anything else.
We had Brandon post the link to the Spotify link to Cost of Doing Business previously, so
yeah,
it was on the screen.
And I know that Cliff has shared some of his other tracks that will be released shortly, and shared some other material that hasn't yet been released. It's fantastic. And I say to everybody who's listening in, please stay tuned, watch this space, buy the album when it's time. You'll really be impressed with the way that he's crafted things. It's full credit to you.
I appreciate that, and I definitely gotta show some love to Sasha, because you know, I haven't shared a lot of my songs with with a lot of different people, but I remember, you know, when we first kind of talked and everything, I could tell that you're a connoisseur of sorts of you know, music, and even that
connoisseur
genre
of many things, many things. Yeah.
So I appreciate the feedback, and just so you know, some of the stuff that's on there, you haven't heard it. Some of the things that you've heard may not be, you know, I'm structuring things to see, you know, when to put out what and everything like that. But I definitely appreciate all the feedback that you've given me.
Does that show up? Can we show that on there? It's a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's the religiosity podcast that I did.
That's a podcast, not a song.
You show that again, Mark?
Yeah, when it says worth it. Yeah, Clifford Henderson, aka Fifth, worth it. Yeah. That was the religiosity podcast that I did. If you haven't heard that, I think you should check that one out too. It's kind of me explaining my XJW life and then kind of transitioning into the music.
And how are things going with your channel as well, Cliff? Sorry, just you've been doing a fair bit of work too with behind the scenes and on your channel as well.
Just so I understand, which channel are you talking about? Since I have the two now.
Oh, sorry, with XJW Fifth, with the JW side of things.
Yeah, so to be honest, I guess recently the only couple of interviews that I've done, you know, this Steven Hassan one that's on my channel, and the one that I did, this is going back farther, but the one that I did with, he's known as XJW Joseph J. If any of you guys have seen him, but he's from my old congregation. I actually was part of the team of witnesses that came into his house and studied with different members of his family or whatever. But yeah, so those are the only kind of two things that I've done recently. I've been trying to just focus on the music. I'm always going to stay attached to the XJW side one way or another. Sometimes I'll post something if I see an article. You know, sometimes some of the stuff that Mark puts on JW Survey, like the plasma thing, the the blood transfusion thing with the COVID-19, that whole thing. So I try to stay up to date with it. But, I'm just trying to, since I've focused solely on that, on the XJW side for the last however many, years, 3.5 years or 4 years, I'm just trying to do my due diligence and, really focus on
reclaim your life.
Yeah, basically. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that, just for the record, it doesn't mean that I'm done with the interviews per se. I'm just at least putting it on hold, for right now to focus on this, which is really a passion.
Mm. Yeah. Now, we've had a comment through for you, Sasha. Sasha's Poetry Corner today made me choke up, even though there are some who are always on the lookout to take advantage, make a quick buck, or even steal. We have seen an outpouring of kindness and giving from the majority. Gives you a view of what wicked mankind, non-JWs, can do when they pull together when the going gets tough.
Yeah,
thank you for
beautiful.
that comment, Charlene. Yeah.
Thanks, Charlene. Yeah, it's very true what you say. We've actually seen throughout the world really great evidences of the spirit of humanity coming together and supporting one another through this crisis. Because, if there's one thing that unites everybody, it's that we're all going through this together. And of course, the whole reason we're doing this lockdown live stream is to show people that you're not alone and that, we're all there for one another. And what we found amazing, and Sherry, you might want to speak to this, is just seeing the ways in which humans get together to brighten one another's day and to provide something positive through what could be a really, it is a very sobering and depressing period of time, and yet humans are coming together in positive ways to try and bring a smile into each other's faces. Sherry, you were going to share something about a great Facebook group?
Yeah, there's a very fun rabbit hole to go down. On Facebook, there's a group called Bin Isolation Outing, and bin as in BIN, your rubbish bin. This is an initiative that started in Australia, where, to amuse everybody, people have gotten dressed up in all sorts of different costumes just to take their bin to the road. for the garbage guys to pick up, and it's become this sensation on Facebook of all these people putting in videos to just lighten the mood, and some of them are just absolutely hysterical. So I recommend greatly bin isolation outing as a great little Facebook page to go down a rabbit hole of, and it's taken off worldwide. It's just hysterical. Great. Is that it, Brandon?
I love the fact that Brandon is from beyond, continuing to assist the lockdown live stream, having graciously given way for Cliff. He continues to provide links when needed. So that's very much appreciated, Brandon.
Thank you, Brandon, by the way. Appreciate you allowing me the space here.
Well, Brandon is technically working at the moment.
Right.
So, we'll just bear that in mind.
Multitasking.
He's multitasking indeed. Sherry, is it also worthwhile talking about the freedom from religion?
You're close. You're close. Recovering from
because there's two that are very sorry.
I know they are.
They're similarly worded. Yeah. Go on.
Yes. Yes. So thank you for that, Lloyd. So recovering from religion. I think I've mentioned before that I've become a volunteer for recovering from religion. I am really, really excited that this coming Saturday, the 18th of April, is the first virtual meetup for Sydney. So recovering from religion has a few different ways in which they support and help people through religious trauma. They have a helpline that you can call from anywhere in the world to just speak to someone. There's an online chat, and then there are also support groups. So there are 41 support groups across the world, and I am beyond thrilled that I'm looking after the very first one in Australia. And because of COVID-19, it can't be face-to-face, but we're going to have a virtual meetup via Zoom. And I can't contain my excitement about it. It's just going to be absolutely awesome. We've already got about 26 members in our meetup group, so you can find it over on Meetup. And we've got about 12 or 13 that have already signed up for attending this meeting. So I'm just, I'm really excited. It feels so good to be able to help people in this way, where it's constructed, it's formatted. It's just fantastic.
And would it be right to say too that the focus is not just for ex-JWs? This is to help people from all different religious backgrounds who are starting to maybe wake up and question. In fact, the motto that Recovering from Religion says, if you jump on their website, recoveringfromreligion.org, I believe it is, Sherry? Or
yes,
recovering.org.
Yeah, .org. Yeah.
.org. It just says, are you questioning your beliefs? Are you questioning what you might have come from? And that's all it's about. It's not necessarily to push an agenda either way. It's just to give people support as they break free from any sort of religious background, high control or otherwise. And the training and the resources provided by those who front the group, these are professionals in their field. Can you speak to who runs the group, Sherry, and their backgrounds?
Today is actually going to be quite something. In a few hours, actually. The founder of Recovering from Religion is Dr. Darryl Ray, who's an organizational psychologist. And in a few short hours, he's going to be giving a talk across Zoom called The Psychology of Religion During Crisis. And I think our audience is going to be able to get that message. They'll understand what that's about, because when you look at how religion is coping with coronavirus, and especially for us as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, seeing how Watchtower is dealing with this, that it's the end times, they're catastrophizing it enormously. I'm going to be very interested to see how Dr. Ray expands on this. So yeah, that's going to be on Zoom very shortly. But because you've got such people, you've got psychologists that Recovering from Religion also well, actually, no, I should say it's Dr. Darryl Ray that's done it. He's also put the Secular Therapy Project together so that there are therapists and psychologists who've been vetted to use evidence-based therapy, so that it's not someone that you go to see who's going to lean towards religion or tell you need to go back to Jesus or something, but to make it very sort of clinical. So they're doing wonderful work. It's they're just such a fantastic organisation to be part of. I'm really enjoying the experience. They're very supportive. So yeah, I'm just mad excited about it. It's going to be fantastic.
Sherry, we do actually have a question for you on Twitch from JTL Graziano, I like to think is how that's pronounced. Sherry, how can we find the support groups through this organization? I want to help, but don't know where to start.
Well, I am thrilled for that question. Thank you for that. So how you find the support groups, I would recommend that you go to their website first off, that we've already sort of put up, recoveringfromreligion.org. And there are many, many resources on that website, but there is a spot where you can search through and find the support groups. You can also go onto Meetup and find the support groups that way. But you say you want to help. So it's a volunteer organization. There are many ways that you can help out. You can go through some training. There's a tab on the website that will take you through what the process is. The first step is that you have to read through all of their policies and procedures so that you understand what the structure of the organization is and what would be expected of you to do as a volunteer, and what the organization is expected to do to support you. And then once you've gone through and put your application in to be a volunteer, you'll then go to an interview. And after the interview, you then pick which stream you want to go into, whether you want to become a volunteer for the helpline, where you'll be answering phone calls. Thank you, brilliant. That's exactly the page, Lloyd. Thank you.
That's Arthur that's doing it, not me.
Oh, Arthur, thank you.
He's not just a pretty face.
and has, well, no, I won't say voice of an angel, but has quite a voice too. So yes, you can choose to either go on the helpline, or you can be on the online chat, or you can be a support group leader. So it just depends which channel you want to go in, but there are many ways that you can help out. And I can't speak highly enough about the organization. It's sorry, I'm laughing because I've just received a message from Shanna Rubio, who's also an ex-Jehovah's Witness, as some might remember her from the Leah Remini Aftermath episode. But Shanna is on the board of Recovering from Religion, so it's great to work along with her as well in this organization. But yes, please go and find out how you can help, because there's lots of ways you can.
Sorry to interrupt. Arthur, could you also bring up the Secular Therapy Project tab that's linked off that main page?
Yes, sure.
One of the things that we often find is that people need support. And, we get a lot of emails, of course, coming through to JW Survey, and our support team tries to help. But none of us claim to be professionals. None of us are properly trained. We're just empathetic listening ears. We like to be a soft landing place to let people know that you're not alone. But what we always refer to is those who are properly trained. If we require support as we're going through this process of getting rid of religious trauma and so forth, it's great to find properly trained people. So the Secular Therapy Project has, as Sherry was saying, proper professionals in their field that can give all of the support you might need. They can put you in touch with professionals in your area or online resources. So yeah, the Secular Therapy Secular Therapist Project, or Secular Therapy Project, sorry, is
where is it? I can't.
Might be off the main page. You'll see there's a link from there, off the at the top. Right. So if you need somebody, if you need to find a professional that you can talk to and that can give you the resources you need, go to the main page, find the tab off there.
Yes.
It has its own website, seculartherapy.org.
Okay.
Thank you. So that's just another great way to find resources from people who understand what we've gone through and can provide the support.
Oh, sorry. Okay. 1 sec. That's right.
I was kind of hoping we'd see something incriminating on our internet browser for a moment. No such
There we are.
luck.
That's the page.
Okay.
So there's a bit of an indication of these sorts of areas that are covered. And of course, in this online world, even if there isn't a therapist in your own backyard, they're as close as the online world and can provide the support that we need.
Yeah.
So
Excellent. Now, we have a comment on Facebook from Melanie. And she has a question related to COVID-19 and the way it's being dealt with by the organization. Hello all from Colorado, USA. I appreciate all of you and your videos, and the live stream is the best. Now that's the sort of feedback I like, Melanie. Not just it's good, but it's the best. So thank you for that. Points for that. Forgive me if this topic has already been discussed, but I'm curious what your thoughts are on whether the governing body will declare or allude to this pandemic as being the beginning of the Great Tribulation. Will you be talking about this in the next Watchtower in Focus video? Melanie, you have answered your own question. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about in the next Watchtower in Focus episode. I think it's safe to say, Mark, they have gone down that road, but they're already backpedaling.
Yeah, we had a nice chat about that today. And can I mention our special guest that we had on, or are we going to leave that?
Yeah,
for a
sure.
surprise?
By all means,
So,
yeah.
Right. So today we had our usual panel of yourself, myself, and Covert 19.
Or COVID fade, depending on what your preference is.
Right. Yeah, we're debating on that one. But we had Steven Hassan come on the program and gave his perspective. In fact, we played him multiple clips from Stephen Lett, from David Splain, from two of the governing body helpers. And so it's really nice to get his broad perspective, because he deals with religious or controlling cults of all sizes and all around the world. Doesn't matter if it's Moonies or Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, etc. So it's really, you're going to love it because we're getting Stephen's perspective, and he showed some graphs and some things from his work that he's done over the past 40 some years of being an expert on cult mind control. So. But, I don't think the one thing I don't think we brought up to answer your user's question is the Great Tribulation, but we really skirted around that. We talked about
it's kind of all the same thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Armageddon, Great Tribulation.
I think witnesses view the Great Tribulation as, that's the trigger point that kicks off the Armageddon party. And, it's always been this fine line between where we are now and when the beginning of the Great Tribulation is. And they just keep stretching and stretching and stretching that out. And look, as I mentioned in the program, 1914 is the fixed date in Jehovah's Witness timeline. That's when the end time started. The last days started. So the further we get into the last days, the more we're talking about the last part of the last part of the last part of the last days. Undoubtedly.
A few people saying that the live stream froze at the exact point where we revealed the mystery guest. Well, it was Steven Hassan. And so look out for him in the next episode of Watchtower in Focus, which I'm hoping will be uploaded tomorrow. And I will say this, you guys won't see this because I'm going to edit it so that when we're watching the clips from JW Broadcasting, you just see the clip. But I found it really interesting to be watching Steven Hassan's face as the clip was rolling, because it was just fascinating to see him like, this is exactly how cults talk, exactly out of the cult playbook. And that was mostly his feedback, wasn't it?
Yeah. So Steve was actually confirming that the governing body's rhetoric fits the pattern.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's something I think that most of us, when we were during our wake up process, when we started to research other religions and work out whether this was the truth or not, we started to see that there was really nothing unique about Jehovah's Witnesses and the way that they approach these things. It was basically just a slightly different flavor of high control religion with its own toxic elements. But yes, many religions fall into that same category, and they have the same playbook. They work from the same fears, the same control, the same fear, obligation, guilt, and their same fear about the end of the world. So yeah, it's really great to see someone like Steven Hassan be able to clarify and say, yep, you're not alone. Lots of religions play by these rules.
Right.
Now, if anyone wants to stall for time, he says, interrupting someone who's precisely doing just that.
Yeah, you can tell, couldn't you? Well,
it seems that the Facebook stream has died. So let me just put a link up so that people on Facebook know where to go for the concluding minutes as we edge towards the 90-minute mark. And please proceed.
Well, I've got some positive things that I wanted to share. Each time we get together with these chats, of course, we try and give some fun and some lighthearted things, or maybe some serious things, some encouragement to those who are going through lockdown. Again, I need to get in the thing that we get in every time, which is a sincere thanks to those working on the front line in the medical fields, in the support services, grocery stores, everything that is necessity. And thank you to everybody who is working tirelessly in this. And I'm sure we don't even know the half of what these ones are going through. So we really want to say a sincere thanks to everybody who's working hard on our behalf as a society. But throughout this process, we always try and remain positive, and we're always trying to give upbuilding things to one another to get through. But I found an interesting little page where it said sometimes positivity can actually flip to being a little bit toxic, because we all try and be so positive and we try and be so upbuilding that it might actually be stifling what we're really going through and the way we're processing the things that we're going through. Because let's face it, this is a time of absolute trauma and upheaval in the world. People are stressed, and we don't know how things are going to pan out in many ways. So it said we have certain behaviours that could be accounted as toxic positivity, whether it's in ourselves or when we talk with others. And that could be hiding what we really feel, or dismissing our emotions, or feeling guilty when negative emotions come up, maybe minimising other people's experience by saying, oh, don't think about it, or don't focus on that too much, or perhaps shaming people for feeling negative. So we really need to say it's okay to express anxiety and stress when we're going through these times. It's okay to say to those that we're close to, I'm not doing all right at the moment. I need some support. I need some help. We don't have to always remain all, flowery and positive and upbeat. There are times where we're going to go through negativity, and that's okay to process it.
That's so true, Sasha. That toxic positivity really affects, I think, every Jehovah's Witness, because we used to push our feelings to the side. Like if someone died, go and have a 30-minute or 40-minute talk at the Kingdom Hall. That's a funeral talk. That's basically a propaganda for the Watchtower and the future paradise and the resurrection, but it doesn't allow people to grieve properly and to have those feelings of sorrow and loss. And they tell you get over it because you'll see them in the resurrection. Let's keep on moving with the preaching work. Let's keep on with Jehovah's United Chariot and his worldwide organization. When in the meantime, you're suffering these extreme feelings of loss and grief, whether it could be going through a divorce or a death or any of these things. And it is very toxic to suppress these feelings. And I think that's why there's so much, there's so much deviancy and so much depression in the Jehovah's Witness organization. I mean, I knew very few elders who were not on some kind of antidepressants. And not just, I don't mean to pinpoint elders, but I mean, I could never begin to count. My best friend growing up is a circuit overseer and can't go day to day without taking antidepressants to this day. And the suppression of that is very toxic. You can't say what you really feel because everything is being monitored by the organization. Lloyd and I had this chat this morning on Watchtower and Focus when we mentioned, or early this afternoon, our time, but we talked about how you've got these guys like Lett and Splain and Anthony Morris, the governing body members, kind of shooting off their mouth, saying whatever, because they're at the top of the chain and they are the anointed, head of the organization. But then you have the other lesser governing body helpers that actually are giving a more toned down, as Lloyd pointed out. It's almost like a hangover from the coronavirus where they're toning it down, but they're suppressing. They can't say what they think the Bible really means because it's up to the governing body to interpret the Bible. And as Jeffrey Jackson said, he's the guardian. They are the guardians of the doctrine. So, I think all witnesses to a degree or other suppressed their real feelings. And, that's just great, Sasha, that, that's a great term, toxic positivity.
JTL Graziano says, yes, thank you, Mark. I've heard from the stage elders say that it isn't appropriate to get emotional in public about a loved one's death.
Yeah.
That crying more than once isn't appropriate. Astonishing cold-heartedness, isn't it?
What have you got to be upset about? You're going to get resurrected? Yeah, things like that used to be thrown around.
I had close friends who lost their one sister lost her brother and her brother's wife in a horrendous car accident, like on a Saturday night. I mean, just a horrendous, just instant death. And they were at the meeting the next day, at our meeting the next day, because that's where they felt they could get, and that's their method of grieving. But they should have been with family. These were non-witness family, as I recall. So they would rather be with the Jehovah's Witness congregation, getting, the handshakes and the hugs there, rather than driving down to visit their relatives, their family, their other family. It was appalling to me that this was a couple of years before we left that this tragedy happened. And I see that all the time.
Exactly.
Indeed.
It's very sad. And, we see this evidence in little ways, both in the behavior that you described there, and it means that people never really get to process what they're going through. They never really get to work on it and build and grow and get through this. So, as you say, it becomes toxic. But I'll give just a couple of last little thoughts that this article said, that it's evidenced by the types of things that we say when we're going through and we need to support people. Instead of, for example, saying, oh, everything happens for a reason, it's better to say it's okay to feel bad sometimes. It's okay to go through a rough time. Instead of saying, oh, failure is not an option, say failure is part of growth. Instead of saying, oh, it could be worse, say, well, sometimes we experience bad things. How can I support you through that? And here's the clincher. Instead of saying, well, let's look at the bright side, which is something we all fall into saying, it's better to say, it can be difficult to see the good in this situation, but we'll make sense of it when we can. In the meantime, we're here to support you. And I just think it's healthy to put things into a proper perspective like that, because as much as we like to have fun and we say to people, we're going to get through this, and, we read poems that try and build everybody up and say there's a better day ahead. At the moment, things suck. Things are difficult. Things are really bad for many, many people. In time, we'll be able to process it and get through it, but allow yourself to go through whatever feelings you need to go through in the process.
Well said. Now, I just must apologize to any who were watching the live stream on Facebook who are now watching it on YouTube after the fact, because we did have a complete meltdown on Facebook, which is why the numbers have dropped down to, I think they were 20 at one point, but some people have transferred over to Twitch. So hello to the refugees from Facebook who are watching now on Twitch. But that pretty much takes us to 90 minutes. I did want to just remind viewers that if you want to have your voicemail played out on the show, here is the number to the number. The URL to use, it's speakpipe.com/Cedars. There is a 5-minute time limit on those voicemails, but if you could keep it to maybe 2 or 3 minutes, that will make it easier to fit it into the show. Alternatively, if you want to record a YouTube message, send it as an unlisted video link to this address, and we will make sure it gets included on the show. Apologies for the technical problems on today's lockdown live stream, but I would like to thank my magnificent panel, including Brandon, who's been working behind the scenes to give people links and all sorts of assistance. It's been a fantastic show, and I really appreciate it. So thanks for joining me.
And to Charlie.
And
to Charlie.
Charlie's not here right now.
Oh, that's Boots.
I don't know where
posing
Charlie
as Charlie.
Charlie's right over here. Come here, Charlie.
So viewers,
Thank you.
Thank you guys for
joining.
having me on. Really enjoyed it.
Indeed. Thanks for
Yeah, we
joining
enjoyed
us
it too.
for today's lockdown live stream. The next one will be on Wednesday. And the times will be in the video description below if you're watching on YouTube. But if you can join us for that, that would be fantastic. All that remains is to say, stay safe, stay inside, stay positive, and we'll see you in the next show. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.